Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. I want to do this video to provide an update on this corrupted family court case that ultimately destroyed my finances and reputation, where I have compelling evidence that two judges blatantly disregarded the rules and the laws that they were sworn to uphold. Investigative journalists are too scared to air this story, even though I have compelling organized evidence of the statements that I'm making are true. And what these two judges did to me, there should be a spotlight on them, on their actions. There needs to be an investigation on these two judges. But for all of you that know, the only body in Canada to hold any judge responsible is the Canadian Judicial Council. And I've dealt with them on multiple occasions. They are a complete sham, a smoke and mirror service to give the public an illusion that there's some type of hope for disciplinary actions for judges who engage in judicial abuse or judicial misconduct. And I can tell you, dealing with the Canadian Judicial Council, it's just a sham. You have people like Robin McKay, who is a former military police lawyer who's been with them since sometime in 2023, going on 3 years. I believe he's dismissed every complaint that's gone before him. I've spoken to a handful of people that's also dealt with the Canadian Judicial Council, and particularly this Robin McKay, and he's just nothing but a thorn in the bush. And so the Canadian Judicial Council just recently released their their 2025 annual report. And just like the 2024 annual report, they dismissed 100% complaints. 2 years ago, they gave 3 warnings. Last year, they gave 6 warnings. So clearly, filing complaints with the Canadian Judicial Council does not work. These two judges that I went before in the Kitchener-Waterloo Courthouse need to be investigated. And I need to turn up this public scrutiny until somebody actually does that, because I'm not satisfied the least bit with this Canadian Judicial Council and this Robin McKay, because he knows what he's doing. He knows that he's either been instructed or he is being a little brown noser by dismissing 100% complaints, right? So they like him. They keep him employed. And basically, the two judges I went before, they decided to completely disregard the rules with this family court. I'm convinced I'm dealing with Kitchener-Waterloo's most corrupted family court case in Canadian history. And honestly, I don't feel a type of way saying that when that is the truth. I have nothing to gain to mislead or lie to the public. I've always been honest. I've always been truthful. And everything I'm about to say in this video is going to be the honest truth. These two judges that I went before, they went by the kangaroo court rules. They did not abide or follow the rules and laws that they are sworn to uphold by legislation. Judges are paid through tax dollars from people like you and I who go out there and bust our asses off for 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour, 50, 60 bucks an hour if we're lucky, to go hand it over to the government, who pays judges like the two I'm about to mention, who completely abuse their power. Those two judges that abused their powers with me are Justice Martha Ann Tweedy and Justice Michael Richard Gibson. These two contributed to destroying my reputation with bogus endorsements. These two contributed to, along with court services, destroyed my finances by giving an ex-girlfriend and an unhinged psychotic lawyer, who I'm still convinced got his lawyer's license out of a cereal box and paid one of these little prep exam courses for a lawyer's license, which is John David Ekping Young. He never attended any Canadian law school. And we don't know where he went to law school in Nigeria. And I'm going to put all my money down that he came to Canada on a bogus Canadian refugee claim. The Law Society refuses to hold this lawyer accountable, and the Canadian Judicial Council refuses to hold these judges accountable. Justice Martha Ann Tweedy was a justice of the peace from Brampton, Ontario, and she came up. She applied. She thought she would apply to the Superior Court and be a judge, and she did that. And she got hired in along with Justice Bingham. I dealt with these two judges. Justice Bingham put a temporary restraining order in place because I kicked in the door of a rental unit that I was illegally evicted from in front of the Waterloo Region Police. And then Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, she started managing my case. I believe my case was her first case in the Kitchener-Waterloo Courthouse. And she demonstrated she does not know the rules. And if she does not abide by them. Justice Martha Ann Tweedy caused 16 months of unnecessary and prejudiced adjournments against me because John David Ekping-Young either never showed up to court, never filled out forms, or sent students. So it was July 2022. We fast forward to November 2023. This judge rejected Ekping-Young's 2 trial schedule endorsement forms. And this is why there was all these adjournments. This lawyer was never prepared. And under Rule 24 in the family law rules, if Rule 24 Sub-Rule 9, if a party is absent or unprepared, the other party is awarded cost immediately. And this Justice Martha Ann Tweedy never awarded me $1 for these 18 months of her prejudice adjournments and unnecessary adjournments. So at November, this settlement conference, it was a conference, a conference, trial schedule, endorsement conference. Ekping-Young, again, never filled out his trial schedule endorsement form. So this judge thought she would take it upon herself and do counsel's job. Something I've brought up to the Canadian Judicial Council, and Robin McKay, of course, like always, gets snotty with me, gets smirky, telling me that, how was a judge supposed to know all this personal information? Well, if Robin McKay wasn't honestly such a little slimeball, he could get the audio recordings from that conference. I tried to order the audio. Recording from that conference. Justice Martha Ann Tweedy refused it. And she referenced something out of the consolidated practices, divisional, whatever that thing is. Whatever she referenced, it does not even exist. Another example that this judge just does not know what she's talking about. Or she thought, like I said, she thinks she's slick and she tried to finesse me. Saying, you can't get the audio recordings for this reason. Well, that reason does not even exist. Something else that was brought to the Canadian Judicial Council that they refused to look into. This judge also at that time blocked out 2 pages of transcripts from that same day. Later on, I had a friend uncover what she blocked out. What she tried to be sneaky and cover up was she mentioned a couple different times in this 2-page and a half that she tried to block out of the transcripts, I should have never constitutionally ever been in family court. This judge identified that I should not have ever been in the family court, yet she still put this meritless case through to a trial. This judge also, like I said, filled out Ekping-Young's trial schedule endorsement form, and under Rule 17 Sub-Rule 11 of the family law rules, it states parties, not a judge, must fill out, serve, and file this form before any trial is ever scheduled. Well, Assistant Trial Coordinator Salone French told me that Justice Tweedy told her to schedule the trial anyways. Well, the judge filled it out and Ekping-Young never filed it, and I was still forced to go to this trial. When I brought this up to Salone French and I told her she contributed to destroying my finances, she said, quote unquote, I do not care. And that is the God's honest truth. That's what she said. This is another dangerous court services employee that the Assistant Deputy Attorney General, Katie Wood, refuses to investigate. So there's just corruption across the whole board, from judges, court administrators, to the Attorney General's office. this situation I am is just riddled with abusive government servants that are continue just to double down on their misconduct. So this judge, Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, admitting after uncovering what she blocked out on transcripts, admitted I should have constitutionally ever been in family court. She puts it forward to a trial. We go to a speak to on, I think it was January 22nd, before Justice Lenny Madsen, is it? Justice Madsen, who put it to a trial. Ekping Young was caught lying to that judge as well, and she caught him and she did nothing about it. This seems to be a common pattern in this courthouse. John David Ekping Young has almost lied to every single judge and deputy judge, and he's got caught, and these people with authority refuse to discipline him. Why? Because I'm convinced everything falls down to this next judge, their local senior judge, who was the trial judge, Justice Michael Gibson, who in my views is the puppet master of this courthouse. I am convinced, through dealing with 21 different of these employees, from prosecutors, deputy judges, court services, and judges, there is an obvious pattern that there's instructions for me not to win any case. It is a very disturbing pattern that I have compelling evidence that I can back up, that I believe this judge is instructing other people to not let me win any case, because everything falls down on this family court rigged trial that I believe he handpicked himself to be the judge for. Going into this trial, so I was forced to go to a trial. So I lose my job working as a licensed. I lost 3 jobs because of this family court bullshit. The second job I lost was working as a licensed electrician at the Scotiabank Arena. It was the best job of my life. And that job, ultimately, I lost it because of this family court and these judges' conduct. Because these judges engaged in catastrophic judicial abuse and catastrophic judicial misconduct, I ultimately lost 3 jobs from their unethical actions. So I get laid off after the All-Star game in Toronto, February the 5th, and then February the 6th, I get a call from the courthouse. Less than 24 hours notice, I'm being told I have to attend to this trial. It's a 2-day trial on the 7th and the 8th. I see who the judge is. As we're at this court, now we're at the court proceeding on the 7th. I see the judge's name. I look it up. This judge is the only judge in Ontario that is sitting in the Superior Court of Canada, Superior Court of Ontario, with his judicial training from the Canadian Armed Forces. This judge loves to be in control of everything. I looked at his bio. I looked at everything. I try to start off on the right foot. I gave this judge nothing but respect throughout this whole proceeding, and nothing mattered. Because when I got his endorsements, there was nothing I could have said that would have won over this judge. The proceeding starts at the trial. The trial starting. I'm trying to get these 2 Waterloo Region police officers summoned to attend. They have their lawyer, their legal representative. She attends, and she's opposing it. I'm supposed to give them 15 days notice. Well, how the hell am I supposed to do that when the court gives me 24 hours notice? The judge asked me if I wanted to adjournment. I didn't want to waste any time. I figured my affidavit with these police reports would have been enough. Before we start this rigged trial, that I believe Justice Michael Gibson had a predetermined answer to this whole thing after reading everything, I brought it to this judge's attention that court services accepted a restraining order application that was commissioned and never signed. The trial schedule endorsement form was never filled out or served or filed by Ekping Young. There was something else. There was affidavits that weren't signed that were part of this. And when I brought this to the judge's attention, he said very calmly, "We're here now. We're going to deal with it." And I'm thinking, well, what's the point of having rules and laws if even the local senior judges aren't going to abide by them? So here we go. I'm at this rigged trial that is now being operated by the kangaroo court rules. For those that don't know what a kangaroo court is, it is a courthouse that does not uphold and abide by the rules and the laws. This is all this courthouse did to me. They treated me unfair. They were not impartial, and there were several rule and procedural violations. And this judge forced me to go to a trial with a woman I was never married with, had children with, or lived with. And this judge should know better that is basic common sense. But he tried to go on as you'll hear what I'm about to say. But he tried to say we cohabitated. We never cohabitated. He went under, I think it was, I'll get into it. 46 of the Family Law Act, 46 2B. Anyone can ask for a restraining order that anyone's cohabitated, and we never cohabitated, and this judge knew that. Another thing about this trial, Justice Ekping Young never confirmed his attendance. He never does in any of them. This is a common thing. This is why I believe this lawyer cheated to get his lawyer's license. He doesn't know what he's doing. There was about 7 or 8 affidavits and applications that were either not signed or not commissioned. I also took this to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal ran by these kangaroo court rules with Justice Lisa Favreau. She accepted Ekping Young's factum, unsigned and uncommissioned factum and affidavit 10 minutes before that appeal. So it's not just this courthouse, it's the Court of Appeal for Ontario that does not abide by the rules and laws that judges are sworn to uphold and who are paid through Canadians' tax dollars. This was just nothing but abuse from the beginning to the end, dealing with these judges and these courts. Justice Gibson straight up lied on his endorsement. You guys can go on Canley and you can follow along to everything I'm saying. You go on Canley and you search Wibbs versus Dobson. The case is FC-22-109. You can see this endorsement. This judge straight up lied on his endorsement. He made contradictory statements that can't be backed up by any evidence or facts that went to intentionally harm my character. Again, this is a court I was unlawfully dragged through for 2 years now at this point. And they know it. These judges know it. They contributed to unlawfully dragging me through this courthouse on a restraining order application that was not signed properly, that court services accepted. Forced to go to a trial without a trial schedule endorsement form ever filed with the court. This wasn't just an error. This was a calculated move by a group of people who did not like me, who took instructions from a senior member of that courthouse. Justice Gibson straight up lied on his endorsement. He said that we lived together. He said that I breached my temporary restraining order. He said I was not a tenant. He said I emailed my ex. He said I called her. Just to start right there. He straight up lied about that. Justice Gibson knew I never lived with my ex at any point. I never did. I rented her basement one day after her tenant moved out on December 10th, 2021. She admitted at one point, she was trying to get me out of the basement. She admitted at one point, she tried to, see, this is what some women will do. And a buddy of mine told me this. Women, particularly, will call the police a bunch of times so it looks like there's a police history. So my ex did this about 4 or 5 times in the month of February. February or March. I think it was March. It might have been towards the February, in the whole month of March. Every time the Waterloo Region Police came, they seen the living arrangements. They seen that I was renting the basement. I had my own kitchen, my own bathroom, my own washer, dryer, my own separate entrance. I had it all. I was renting this basement. We never cohabitated. Her 3 witnesses at the landlord-tenant board, which I'll be doing a new video soon. Jeff Grominski, her electrician, was caught lying under oath, saying he played stupid. He didn't know why he installed the second 100 amp panel, which was supposed to be for the unit. She never got it metered to have 2 meters. Her daughter, her oldest daughter, lied under oath. playing stupid about the tenant living there. Oh, she lived there for free. And then her girlfriend, Cynthia Bruns, of 30 years, straight up lied too, saying that when that adjudicator, another Canadian Armed Forces member, who was another aggressive individual, told me to shut up at the landlord-tenant board and threatened to cancel my application if I didn't continuously to answer Ekping Young's questions, repetitive nonsense questions. He was going to cancel my application. Robert Petchett asked Cynthia, where was Mr. Dobson's items? Where in the house was it? She said it was downstairs. And when he asked her, well, what was upstairs? She said, oh, there was a towel in the bathroom. My ex's witnesses got caught lying at the landlord-tenant board, which I have the transcripts to back up that statement. Her witnesses at this family court trial were caught lying too, which I'll get into shortly. This judge, Justice Michael Gibson, said that called me a common law spouse. I was never cohabitated with my ex. And you want to call me common law? He should know better that in Ontario, that is a minimum of 3 years cohabitating. Calling me a spouse, which is a legal term for marriage, we were never married. So not only did this judge lie about that, he also lied about the phone call and the email. So my ex at one point, she tried to give these one day, there was one day of these private phone calls. Oh, it must be Mr. Dobson. Well, a year and a half before this trial, I showed my phone records. And I did not make those calls. I want nothing to do with this woman. This is all about accountability and holding these people accountable for abusing their powers. And that's the reason why I'm doing these videos. So I brought this up to the judge. I proved it. I didn't call her. My ex even admitted, and you can hear this on the audio recording, she never answered the calls. So this judge is saying I called her, and he has no proof of that. Another thing is that he said that I emailed her. I never emailed her. This was another exhibit. The phone call history was an exhibit, and this was an exhibit. This email was an exhibit. She emailed herself. You can see in this exhibit, she has one email here and another email here, and what she did was she copy and pasted an email to Ekping Young. And this judge started quoting all up in his endorsement, and you can see that. I said to her, you don't know what I'm capable of doing. So he completely twisted this around. The other thing was he said that I was not a tenant. My ex had this police report where she admitted I was a tenant. I was paying rent. She also applied to the landlord-tenant board for an eviction application. Justice Michael Richard Gibson had all of these documents and exhibits in front of him, yet he lied. This judge lied. He ran me down. He called me rigorous. He said, oh, I had ominous attacks on the lawyer. The guy is a fucking joke, John David Ekping Young. He harassed me for years. He submitted all these fraudulent documents that committed perjury. Justice Gibson piggybacked off a lawyer who I'm saying lied on his credentials as a lawyer. Justice Gibson simply didn't like me. Justice Gibson also accepted a partial recording, which was an exhibit. It was a 10 or 15 minute conversation. My ex called me up from the basement, and she got me all riled up. And about 8 or 10 or 12 minutes into the conversation, she hit record. And so Justice Gibson heard this audio recording of me losing my shit because my ex provoked me, and he accepted that. He accepted this partial recording as an exhibit. Most judges in Ontario who act impartial and truly act fair, they will not accept a partial recording because they have no background information to how this led up. But this judge did that. Justice Gibson, on his endorsement, said, I demonstrated a lengthy period of harassment, impulsive behavior with the objective of harassing or distressing the applicant. No, I didn't. There was a couple small events while I was trying to move out of that basement rental unit where I missed the garbage, or when they illegally evicted me, when John David Ekping Young instructed his client, and a judge should know better, a lawyer cannot do that. The Law Society should know better. A lawyer cannot do that. I peed behind a shed. So this judge made all these bogus statements, and and misled the public and destroyed my reputation and eventually destroyed my finances because he simply didn't like me. Justice Gibson made a final restraining order to pursuant of Section 46(2)B of the Family Law Act because the respondent is a person who has cohabitated with the applicant for any period of time. Well, this judge knows that. I did not cohabitate with her. So why did the judge lie? Well, this judge, I believe this judge was a part of my ex's high-profile divorce. At some point, he was a part of it. And if somehow we can get our hands on these transcripts and these endorsements, Wibbs versus Wibbs, which I'm working on, we're going to see what judges were involved. They sealed it and put it away because of the young adults that were involved. They weren't children. They were young adults. Okay? So these endorsements should be made public, and they're not. Because if this judge was a part of it, he was protecting my ex. And I think, to be honest, the way this judge dealt with me, the way every other 50, 60-year-old man interacted with my ex, they had a crush on her. They did. And I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't anything different than how this judge looked at my ex. Every man over 50, over 60 had a crush on my ex one way or another. They did. And that can be a whole other video, why I think that. You just look at this judge's actions. He forced me to go to a trial on a restraining order application that was never signed. Forced me to go to a trial with a trial schedule endorsement form never filed with the court. Forced me to go to a trial with a woman who was never married with, had children with, or lived with. Lied on his endorsement. Said I emailed her, I called her, I was not a tenant, and I breached my temporary restraining order. That's the other thing this judge said on this, on his endorsement. I breached the temporary restraining order. No, I didn't. That was a bold lie. I was never charged. I was never warned by police. I served her small claims forms in the courthouse because her lawyer, like usually, doesn't show up or he's like seriously late. So I never breached anything. And this judge would have seen the police report and the eviction application where my ex admitted that I was a tenant. I was paying rent. This judge referenced 4 cases on his endorsement that have nothing to do with my case. He referenced, you'll see on there, Noriega, Litcree, Fuda versus Fuda, Cara versus McManus, and VHY versus SHG. I looked into these case laws. It has nothing to do with my case before him. And this is what a lot of lawyers will do, especially lawyers that don't know what they're doing and they try to finesse the courts. They'll just start pulling case laws that they think have some type of similarity to the case before them or the case they're representing, and they don't. So not only did this judge do all this stuff to me, but he referenced these case laws that had nothing to do with the case before him. He said on his endorsement, I gave the applicant $750 when I moved back in. But the truth is I never lived there to begin with. And this judge knows that. So he lied about that. And I never lived with her anywhere else. We never cohabitated. So this is where this judge screwed up. He forced me to go to a trial because he had a rigged, predetermined decision that he needed to execute on. Okay? This judge was absolutely horrible. The evil and the psychotic behavior that I've seen come out of that courthouse is compelling. It is staggering that these individuals are so comfortable and they're so cocky and they're so arrogant and they're so egotistic that they think they can do this and they're going to get away with it. Why? Because they generally do, and people are too scared, don't have the courage or don't have the resources to do what I'm doing in speaking up and speaking out about the abuse I endured from this justice system that Doug Downey, our Attorney General of Ontario, is very aware of and refuses to get involved. The Assistant Deputy Attorney General, Katie Wood, she knows about this court service corruption and misconduct. She's even admitted it in certain words. She refuses to act upon it. My Burlington MPPs, Karina Gold and Natalie Pierre, have been absolutely useless, and they refuse to help. It is their job to look out for the public's best interests, and they have not done that for me. They are too scared to get involved, in my opinion. That'll hurt their votes, and they'll lose their nice little cushy job. Another issue with this judge is, and not only with this judge, but Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, Justice Ian Smith, and Justice Michael Smith, Justice Michael Gibson particularly. After this judge gave me this endorsement, I sent him a letter. I said basically saying I don't know how he came up to this decision. He lied. The honest truth is this judge has lied through his teeth, did not think twice about it. He accompanied and aided and abetted my ex with her fraudulent and judicial perjury application. And I wrote that judge a letter. And in that judge, I told the judge that because of this court, I've had like suicidal thoughts. I've been extremely depressed. I have lost 3 jobs. I've been eating stale bread on canned tuna. This judge never commented on that. He never I warned the police. He never made any comment on that. And that tells me that this judge does not care about men's mental health. He definitely doesn't care about my mental health. And I will be sharing that letter with the public one day. Another thing too in the rules is apparently you're not supposed to send judges letters, or you cannot communicate them outside of a proceeding. Well, I did that. And this judge accepted that letter. And I believe this judge made this bogus decision off of that letter I sent him, where I admitted that there's been times where I feel extremely depressed. And anybody would in my situation. And this judge demonstrated he did not care. It was brought to his attention that someone before him has been feeling suicidal. And this judge didn't do fuck all about that. So if this judge did not warn the police or make any comment about that, then that tells me he does not give 2 flying fucks about men who go before him. And all he has to do is pretty much flip a coin and figure out which life he's going to destroy, because he's proven and he's demonstrated he does not abide by the rules and the laws. He plays unfair. He lies on endorsements. He gives intentional contradictive statements that cannot be backed up by any of the facts or evidence that was before him and accepted by this courthouse. There was 2 witnesses at that trial, Kim Bornerick and Mark Van Loven. These 2 are in-laws through marriage. Kim was caught reading notes from a notepad. She admitted she was coached by the lawyer a day before. She was caught lying. She sounded intoxicated. I know for a fact this woman is heavily medicated off clorazepam. I've had it before. I still use it from time to time, especially from dealing with this courthouse and this judge in particular. My prescription has been more frequent because of this court case. I know she was on that from when I was dating my ex before I moved in. She's probably on a half a milligram. She sounded intoxicated that day, and this judge noted it. He said, she was rambling on that day. She was rambling on, and the judge, Justice Gibson, commented about, we're not in some social setting. He might even said something like a bar or something, like, Miss Bornerick, please, I want to remind you, this isn't some social setting. So she was a sloppy mess of a witness who got caught lying. She had to read notes from a notepad. They had to cheat. They had to try and fucking cheat to win this case. And this judge seen all this. Mark Van Loven signed an affidavit or some court form saying that he was a witness to 100 harassing text messages. And when I asked him to give one example, he couldn't because he said it was too long ago. So that whole court proceeding was bullshit. This judge did all these things to me. And these investigative journalists are too chicken shit to air my story. So I'm being forced now to go public and share these events that happened to me. I've got all the evidence to back up. back up what I'm saying is the truth. We try to figure out cost. I lose this rigged, bogus family court trial. Again, a woman who lives 80 kilometers away from me. I haven't contacted her since April 2022. I want nothing to do with this woman. She admitted at that trial she frequents 7 businesses in Burlington, all within a 10-kilometer radius from my property. She was seen on Facebook biking around here in June of 2022. Yet she was playing like she was drumming up that, oh, she's terrified for her life and blah, 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 blah. And what does this judge do? Gives her a piece of paper to torment me and to abuse me, because they did. They tried to put me in contempt 4 times off some fucking bullshit materials, trying to drag her ex-husband into this on some bullshit. I'm sure he's not impressed about that. I will be doing a video about those materials and the contempt, the 4 attempts to put me in contempt. So we lose the 2-day rig trial. We got to submit costs. I asked for $15,000. And I do that because I go off of Rule 24, Sub-Rule 7, 9, and 10, which I'll get into in a little bit. That went right over Justice Gibson's head, and he clearly just didn't give 2 shits about me. And he also said in his endorsement, he does not care about my finances. He said that one way or another. I'll be getting into that. So Ekping Young, I couldn't believe how stupid and ignorant this lawyer was. He submitted a fraudulent court cost request of $160,000 for hours that were never worked. He lied to this judge, and for money that never exchanged hands. Oh yeah, sorry, let me back up 1 minute here. Another thing that happened at that family court trial was Justice Gibson snapped on John David Ekping Young. Ekping Young foolishly submitted an affidavit that he commissioned without his client's signature, which Justice Gibson snapped on him. Said he would make note of this, and he made this whole big stink about this unsigned commission affidavit. Never did any of that. Said he would make note of it. He made fuck all note about it. Nothing in his endorsement, nothing in his notes. He lied about that too. On that unsigned commission endorsement affidavit, Ekping Young admitted that my ex paid him a block fee of $7,000. Okay? This fucking bonehead, John David Ekping Young, now is asking for $160,000. And until I get into this rig court cost whole thing with Ekping Young and Justice Gibson, another big thing that happened at that family court rig trial, my ex submitted a traveler's insurance document. It was page 9 of 12, where she had been paid $10,000 for a fraudulent home insurance request. She straight up lied to Travelers Insurance, and she got paid $10,000 minus her $1,000 deductible. She got $4,000 for a stove that she claimed I damaged. She says I damaged the floor, I damaged the blinds, and I only found out this later on because Justice Gibson refused my request for this full document, 12-page document. All it was page 9. Oh, this is what she got paid. There was nothing of what was damaged. So not only did my ex and Ekping Young engage in this fraudulent, this court proceeding that Justice Gibson just gave them a blank canvas to do, Justice Gibson knew, he was aware of, that my ex got paid $10,000 from a fraudulent home insurance claim. And I would bet you, I would guess she never even replaced those items because they were never broken. She showed a picture of a tiny little hole in the floor. She had to get all new flooring or repaired. I never did that. And if I did do it, it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional. There was a tiny little stain on one of the blinds. I never did that. I never made, no, there was not, it was tiny. And then she claims this stove. She foolishly admitted, like, this woman isn't that smart. She just, she just has a horseshoe up her ass that men just gawk at her and they allow her to get away with this stuff. She admitted that she got $4,000 for a stove, a damaged stove. Let me tell you this, that stove was a $300 used stove. It was perfectly fine while I was living there. It was perfectly fine before I left. She got $4,000 for a used $300 stove, and this judge is completely aware of that. So this judge, Justice Gibson, entertains a fraudulent $160,000 court cost request, knowing especially from that affidavit, that they never paid this. This judge entertains that that ridiculous fraudulent cost and gives up some psychotic endorsement. He writes out this psychotic cost endorsement justifying entertaining that $160,000 cost. In his endorsement, he had no respect or consideration for my financial situation. He said my conduct was irrigorous, and at times I was a scorched earth litigant. I had scorched earth litigant tactics. You got to understand this. I had no fucking legal business ever being in that court. Now, this judge has the nerve to fucking not only lie on endorsement, but make all these comments that I didn't act like. And if I did, it was out of sheer frustration because this judge not only forced me to go through all this family court proceeding, he forced me to go to this trial, this rigged trial. And this judge was a part of her trial, her high-profile divorce fucking trial. And then he's got the fucking nerve to sit there and say, I acted out of line, and then you fucking wonder why. He said on his endorsement, he said self-rep litigants should not be insulated from cost consequences merely because of status. This judge gave zero fucks about my financial situation. I already told him I lost 3 jobs in that letter, and I will be sharing that letter publicly to show you guys that this judge does not give a fuck about men's mental health, especially when it's brought to his attention saying, hey, I've got like these suicidal thoughts, I've lost everything, I'm involved in all these charities. He demonstrated by his actions and his words and his endorsements, he does not give a fuck about men's mental health, especially those who have been affected by these illegal and fraudulent court proceedings. All they are to do is to keep these court services employed and keep these judges employed, and he knows that. And every other judge and prosecutor and court services employees know that. They fucking drag everything out. They cause adjournments. Just look at what Justice Tweedy did to me. 18 months of unnecessary and prejudiced adjournments just so they can fucking stay employed. And they can justify these bullshit court costs. When I asked for $15,000, I referenced Family Law Rule 24-7, unreasonable behavior by a successful party. If the successful party acts unreasonable, they lie, they cheat, they get caught submitting fraudulent court cost requests, they get caught engaging in judicial abuse, they get caught commissioning documents without their client's signature, that is fucking unreasonable behavior. Or how about Subrule 9, absent or unprepared? 18 fucking goddamn months of unnecessary and prejudiced adjournments. This lawyer was never fucking prepared. He didn't even fill out half the forms properly. The judges had to. He sent students. He lied to judges. Okay? I never got $1 for any of those fucking adjournments that this Justice Martha Ann Tweedy adjourned. Number 10, bad faith. This lawyer, John David Ekping-Young, all his conduct was in bad faith. He got caught lying to 7 different judges. 7 or 8 applications, affidavits, unsigned, uncommissioned. The court service is still accepted. He asked for $160,000 when Justice Gibson knew he only paid 7. I don't know how much more compelling evidence the public needs to have this judge and Justice Martha Ann Tweedy properly investigated. Justice Gibson ordered me to pay $60,000 3 days after my 40th birthday. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a calculated move by this former Canadian Armed Forces individual. 60 days after that, without any communication how to make payments, John David Ekping-Young files a garnishment. My bank account, since this garnishment, which I disputed and I appealed all this, which I'll get into, my bank accounts have been frozen since September 2024. That is unacceptable. That is fucking bullshit. The emotional distress that this judge and all the other judges and these court administrators put me through is unacceptable. And I'm going to continue going public until a law firm has the balls to help me correct this situation. Or these judges and Doug Downey and Sean Fraser and Katie Wood can stop fucking screwing around. Okay? They can stop screwing around and they can fix this situation. I had no unlawful business ever being in family court, and they fucking know that. Court administrators were caught engaging in major court corruption, major misconduct that led to catastrophic consequences to my life. Nobody should have to fucking live under these circumstances. And it's because of this Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse. My bank accounts have been frozen since September 2024. My credit score went from fucking 810 to 450. Ek Ping Young has said in several emails he's refusing to accept payment. He refuses to give me instructions how to pay. And how the fuck am I supposed to even pay when my bank accounts are frozen? I went to the Court of Appeal for Ontario. That was a complete joke and waste of time. We went before Justice Lisa Favre, who just piggybacked off Justice Gibson's endorsement, which is riddled with errors of law and facts. I can prove that. Justice Tweedy Justice Favre pretty much acted as counsel at times. She not only that, this fucking courthouse, okay, another court proceeding that ran off of the kangaroo court rules, accepted Ek Ping Young's factum and affidavit 10 minutes before the proceeding, unsigned, uncommissioned. And that was from those two guys there. I forget their names. Those court administrators, Mario, Marco, and the other fellow. They accepted this. More court services, incompetence, and corruption. That, again, Katie Wood refuses to investigate. That woman got a $125,000 raise in 1 year. And she is refusing to provide public service. She's refusing to take my complaint serious. So what does that mean? She's not earning a salary. She's taking it. She is taking from Canadians. She is refusing to uphold her duties as the Assistant Deputy Attorney General, which is essentially in charge of all the court services. And she's playing all these games with me. And she's protecting, aiding and abetting court services corruption and court services misconduct. I filed a garnishment dispute. Court staff gave me nothing but problems in that Kitchener-Waterloo courthouse, particularly Sarah Scott. She gave me nothing but problems. To me, it's pretty obviously they were having fun doing this. They rejected about 10 of my items, and there was really no issues with them. This is the same court. This is the same woman, and along with Carrie Rice, this is the same court administrator that accepted my ex's and John David Ek Ping Young's restraining order application that was commissioned and unsigned. Yet this court administrator wants to give me a hard time and not accept my filings. There was nothing wrong with them. She just fucking played mind games with me. She's another issue. Sarah Scott, Carrie Rice, Ingrid, Salone French, Nancy Straczynski, all these court administrators, a girl named Julie, they all gave me nothing but a hard time. They rejected all of my filings so many times. They made me fucking bend over backwards to get them accepted. Carrie Rice accepted all my submissions that had deficiencies. I never had to fix anything. Julia was probably the worst at the family court. Sarah Scott was up there, and Carrie Rice, who overseen all of this. They accepted all these deficiencies, major deficiencies with my ex and Ek Ping Young. And with me, they give me a hard time. Why? Because I've been flagged. And Carrie Rice admitted that in an email. They keep unrelated emails and communications on file. Why? So judges can read them. And they have this internal notes about particular people. We finally get this garnishment moving along. We get before none other than Justice Martha Ann Tweedy. Another judge who doesn't care about men's mental health, because that was on January the 22nd. Again, a year later after that speak to that she forced me to go to. Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, also another judge who has demonstrated she does not give a shit about men's mental health. I had a breakdown that day. I was freaking out because this judge is responsible for this family court proceeding. All those errors she made, this judge has no business being a judge. This is the problem with this Canadian Judicial Council. Judges can fuck around, bend the rules, break the rules, run by kangaroo court rules, And there's no accountability when you got the Canadian Judicial Council who dismisses 100% complaints year in and year out. So Justice Martha Ann Tweedy, basically, she had 3 endorsements. I lost that garnishment dispute, and I lost it simply because I didn't file a Form 13. Not only Form 13, which is specifically child support and spousal support, that didn't apply to me. And this judge put in her endorsement, oh, she doesn't know about my financial situation, how hard it's been. How fucking hard it's been losing all these jobs and these restrictions and my bank being frozen. She wants to fucking play ignorant and play this game. Oh, I don't know how bad Mr. Dobson's going through because I don't have a Form 13. Again, this judge doesn't know what she's doing because a Form 13 is specifically for child support and spousal support, and that's not what I was there for. Not only that, she's screwing around with that. John David Ekping filed no materials for this garnishment, and I fucking lost. This is the bullshit this court is doing to people. How do you lose a fucking garnishment dispute when the fucking lawyer who's supposed to be in good standing with the Law Society and honestly got his credentials, which he didn't. We all know he cheated to get his license. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Never filed any materials at this garnishment. Justice Michael Gibson, Justice Martha Ann Tweedy have engaged in major judicial abuse. They have both engaged in major judicial misconduct. They both have demonstrated they do not abide by the rules and the laws they are sworn to uphold. They do not treat parties fair. They do not handle cases impartially. They entertain fraudulent court costs. And they need to be investigated. I believe if they can do this to me, they can do it to other people, and they've probably done it to other people. The biggest problem out of this whole situation is Justice Michael Gibson. He's their local senior judge. Everyone's too chicken shit to challenge his endorsement. You look at what happened at that Court of Appeal for Ontario, Justice Lisa Favreau. The way she handled that appeal that day, there was nothing but prejudice. There seems to be this feminist trend dealing with these courts and these females. Unfortunately, they're just not fair. They do not treat men fair. This is what happened to me. This was traumatic. This has affected me. It's affected my mental health. Justice Tweedy, Justice Michael Gibson, Justice Ian Smith all know how bad this has affected my mental health. And I've mentioned that I've had suicidal thoughts, and they have ignored to comment on it. They have demonstrated they do not care. And I wish they would just fix this mess they did. And not only that, I wish more members of the public would speak up and speak out about these type of experiences. Because it's affected me every day, day in and day out. They destroyed my mental health. These judges, particularly Gibson, destroyed my reputation. I'm convinced Justice Gibson's had his hand in every case that I've gone before. Justice John Kochenko. I feel like he influenced Justice Katrina Braid, who committed forgery by deleting and altering a 10-page endorsement down to 1. I believe Justice Gibson influenced Justice Ian Smith. He's definitely influenced all of these court administrators, particularly Kelly Rice. And I think he's had his hand in that private prosecution against Ekping and my ex. He even scheduled that first vexatious litigant application where Justice Gibson lost it on Ekping for again not filing his attendance. He adjourned that first vexatious litigant hearing to January 9th, which was my second appearance for the private prosecution. So he is a very calculated judge. You definitely don't want to be on his bad side. And you know what? He never gave me a fair chance to be on his good side because he had a predetermined decision based off of internal notes about me before leading up. I believe this judge handpicked himself to oversee that family court trial, that rigged family court trial. I believe this judge has had his hand in every other proceeding after that to inform those involved in those other proceedings to not let me win at all. Because if I do, it'll give me an in to challenging this his obvious very wrong and abusive family court endorsement, that trial that he unlawfully forced me to participate in. The Canadian Judicial Council is riddled with corruption. Their complaints department, especially Robert McKay, is denying public service by dismissing 100% of complaints. So where's the Chief Justice of Canada in all this? You know, is he encouraging this? Is he applauding this? Who is overseeing the okaying a dismissal of 100% complaints? They gave 3 warnings one year. They gave 6 the other year. And every time a judge is supposed to go before a panel of Canadian Judicial Council, they fucking retire. So there's never any, and they probably, you know what I mean? It's like this telephone game. They probably recommend them to do that. Oh man, this is bullshit. This is just bullshit what I'm going through. And I just need the public's help to get this story out because these investigative journalists refuse to talk about it. These judges have pretty much, in my views, gotten away with murder. Look what they did to me. All starting from this family court case. I can't believe how foolish this courthouse is to get behind John David Ekpingham, who is being prosecuted by the Law Society Tribunal. You know he's not. You know he's going to get off on that. They're going to slap him with a fine because everything falls back to that kitchen wall of the courthouse. And everything falls under Sean Fraser, Minister of Justice, Doug Downey, Attorney General of Ontario, and Katie Wood. She goes by these 2 names. I don't know what her name is. It's Katie Wood, the Assistant Deputy Attorney General, who oversees court services and who is aiding and abetting this major catastrophic court services corruption and misconduct. So, like, what do you do? It's just fucking bullshit, man. So, just, I'm going to leave the video at that, man. These 2 judges need to be investigated, plain and simple. And hopefully that happens one day. So, I'm going to leave the video right there. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.